Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are here at the Rail, and it's going to be noisy today because it is our home, but we are sharing it. We are sharing it with some amazing artists today, but we're on show day time, and today I have, someone who, I don't know, they're just shooting up, and every time I see them or see what they're doing something else that's really like amazing, just leveling up every time, and I'm just excited to have. But today we have Daedric here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Should I refer to you as Daedric?
That's fine.
Is that I'm like, that's what I want to call you, because you've built something like very powerful, and what I would, relative to me, like, is very like little time. Because this is the second time you've been on, so we've talked about like kind of like the origins of this and starting and getting going, and like having a partnership right off the bat, to get this going. But what you've done in the past, I think it's almost 2 years now that you were on, because you were about to release Mortal last time you were on here, which again had amazing like reception and has brought you like plenty of opportunities. But yeah, I just kind of want to touch base and see like how do you feel about like where you've been and then where you are currently.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it feels like it's been 10 years since we released that, but also it feels like yesterday. I was just listening to some of the tracks in the car just to kind of get a feel for it as we're going into the next album. And it feels like it's been miles apart in terms of my personal growth in the songwriting and the delivery of the vocals and things like that. And I feel like Mortal was a really great foundation for us, but now it's time to just grow exponentially and push the limits of everything on every aspect. And I feel like even though it provided a good foundation, I'm not afraid to completely diverge from what Mortal was.
Yeah. As far as a foundation, you have a very strong one in Mortal, you know what I mean? Like, so being able to have that to build off of is amazing, like stability, like to have, and you've kind of shown it in some of like the recent releases and even like collaborations that you've done. But just even like the ones like earlier this year in January, you released a song that was a collaboration, and immediately like I was already seeing like this shift change. Now, although when I heard that, I was like, okay, like I don't know how much like one person or the other like actually added to this, but it definitely seemed a little different than like Mortal. But you have opened yourself up to those collaborations. Is that something you kind of also credit to changing what Daedric is?
Definitely. I'm always looking for new things to influence me, and I'm just soaking in everything, kind of like a sponge.
Yeah.
And I'm just listening to new music, and not exactly always in metal, but just hearing other people's takes and how they approach it. Mm-hmm. And even things like lyrics or concepts or the vocal delivery, those are all things that I feel like I'm just constantly soaking in. So every time we do a collaboration, hearing their side of things or even some suggestions they might make, it helps me a lot because it pushes me to just try something out of my own box.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's OC, your host for the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. And I know what you're saying. Another ad on this podcast. Yes, but this one, you can help support the podcast. You might be seeing these beautiful Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast hats here on the table, where they're not just for decoration. We're selling these hoes, okay? This podcast, I don't get paid for this, so I need some money. Let's try to do that again. Less desperate. These hats look very cool, and it would be very cool of you to buy one to put on your head and look even more cool than you already do, all right? If you want to tell people that you have impeccable taste, that you listen to all types of music, and you listen to the best podcast in the entire world or tri-state area, or maybe just this area here, this is the best podcast in this room, probably, then you should get one of these hats so that you can help support a local business and a local podcast, and so you can help support artists to come here and talk shit, okay? That's the whole point of this. But yes, go to NoiseROT.com to pick out your Chill Sounds and Breakdowns hat or other merch. We got stickers, we got pins, pick something up, and thank you for supporting the podcast. Have those collaborations just come out of people that you've become friends with, or are these people like reaching you out now that you've have a lot more eyes on you? Like I feel like you do. Is this people like you're finding in that way, or is this just like friends that you've had?
I think definitely a little bit of both. I think sometimes they can be friends first and then we collaborate, and then other times we've collaborated and we've really clicked and we keep in contact for the most part. And it's been really cool because I feel like I'm building this little network of people I just know, or like say, you know, I know you, I've worked with you. And then they always know somebody that we know. And it's just it becomes a smaller world because I realize that everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yeah. And
it's really cool because it's kind of feels like it's like a little spider web of people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think it's funny, but like the phrase, like it's, you know, it's not what you know, but who you know that comes to mind. And I used to look at it in a very like negative connotation, but once like you start realizing that's networking, that's literally just making friends, like it just becomes that you build your own network of people of like, oh, like I need help doing this, is like, well, this guy knows that guy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like then you have a connection there. And it's a lot more of that. It's a lot more if you take it as like, yes, it is who you know, so get to know like good people, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily just like what can you get out of them, but like if they're along the lines of like pursuing the same kind of things that you are, or even just being like in the same creative realm or whatever, like you always find somebody else that's like doing a part that maybe is a little harder for you, or like maybe like it's a skill that you don't necessarily have and looking out from. But I mean, one thing we were talking about before this, and even on the last podcast, when we talk about skills, is like you initially and still kind of currently do a lot of like workload for Daedric, including, I mean, we were looking at like some of like a clip of like your first music videos and talking about like, oh, like you were in your pajamas when you were doing that and like filmed it. How does that, coming from that sort of background of like you doing a lot of DIY stuff to now building to where you are and kind of letting go a little bit more of the things you would normally take on, how does that transition feel into that? And then how does it fit into like your creative process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of Daedric stuff is still very DIY. I'm very hands-on. Not that people can't help with that, but it's more of a factor of I like to be very involved and make sure everything feels cohesive in terms of the creative. So I'm doing things like designing merch. I'm designing our website, doing ads, things like that to keep myself invested. But then I'm also trying to find people who can take those things. Like we used to film our own music videos, and then we found someone who was amazing at that and even better than me.
Yeah.
And they can take over from there and just blow it out of the water. And same thing for every little piece that I'm always trying to find someone who can do it better. You know, we have a photographer, we have someone who can do it live. We have someone who, we have Dylan, who is a guitarist who has a live rack. And it used to be Clay and I that would do that. But handing that over to Dylan has proven that it's just so much better because he's so dialed into that and he's so excellent at it that it's like, it's another thing that we can take off of our plates. And it's just been so helpful to find people like that you can trust who are just amazing at what they do.
Yeah, two things you hit on there, like people being able to trust them, like, because again, this is a project that you started, you know, from scratch, from the ground up, and again, like in the beginning, a majority of it was like you taking control of all of it, to finding people that, okay, if I am going to involve somebody else, like who is actually gonna care about this as much as I do, like, because that's kind of how it has to be. But also finding people that like are amazing at that with the skill, and to the point where you like see them do whatever like part they're taking on and being like, that's awesome. Like I'm glad that they're doing that, and being happy about like that right. Like collaborative effort, and being happy that they're part of like your team. But yeah, you have started working with like a few other people like in the music video. I saw some of like the behind the scenes, and we'll get to Night Mother, but I saw some of that, and like the videos have been like amazing. Is that working with like outside like videographers? Is that from like Mortal On?
Yes.
Okay.
So there were 2 videos that we worked on in Mortal that required an external videographer. Mm-hmm. And then going forward for this album, we are working almost entirely with the same guy. There's maybe like 1 or 2 videos that we kind of did on our own. Mm-hmm. But we loved working with him. It's Michael Levine, and he's just so incredible. He's so dialed in, and he's always just like pushing himself. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that I'm looking forward to bring into the circle of Daedric, is someone who's like really loves their craft and always wants to be better, not just for me, but for themselves, because that passion, like you cannot replace that. Yeah, no, it's a thing, you know, when you see it, and like, especially if you're working with them, like you get to experience it like with them. Like, how are they seeing things? Like, how are they, like, they're seeing my lens, and it's not just like, okay, what do you want? Okay, let's do that. It's like, okay, what if, you know, we do this, or trust me, like I also have a vision, like, which really does matter, because I guess you see these people also care about the thing that you care about a lot, and
and wanting to add their own lifestyle or care enough about it to think about it in a different way than you do.
Yeah.
Like, even though that, I'm sure that causes a little clash here and there, and be like, well, I wanted this or I wanted this, or but most of the times, like, you compromise and then someone's got an open mind and then you create some really cool stuff, which, again, with the videos that have come out, like, you can definitely tell, like, the elevation and kind of like the story, even just the storytelling, like, in the videos and how they feel. But yeah, I do want to get to Night Mother, because it's a hell of a single to drop. Like, and this is part of like a new album that you're working on, or album done?
The album is finished. This is the first single of quite a few, and it's certainly not the least. I think there's like some surprises in there.
Okay,
I'm super proud of it. I'm in the dark of like what the album sounds like, but this indication, I mean, even I saw a few like clips you put out where you were speaking on Night Mother specifically, but even talking about parts of it being like heavier, not only in a sense of like the music, but also like in the sense of like what you're speaking about. But is that the lyrical heaviness? Is that kind of a theme throughout like the album? Yes. It's crazy. Like, going into this, I knew I wanted something closer to the heart, like something really impactful and emotional. And I thought, I'll just write some words that like do that, or like I'll find a story to tell that. And it ended up being my story.
Okay.
And it was really, honestly, just challenging. And it's hard to put all of that into words, all of those feelings, all of those situations and experiences into just, a simple answer. But it was a hell of a time. The last year, I would say, of my life has just been completely just tumultuous in both ends. There's been some really high highs and some really low lows. There's times where I'm constantly questioning myself of like, what the heck am I doing? Am I supposed to be here? And it's hard not to compare yourself to other things and other people. And just feeling all of that very deeply and very personally, it just floors you. And that's stuff that I ended up drawing on. And even though it was really difficult to write about and sit there and be like, I'm really going to talk about like mental breakdowns and emotional just craziness, like, and show my crazy to people. That's kind of scary, because then you wonder if people are going to be like, oh, she's kind of unstable or something.
Okay.
And you want to be seen as like this powerful like musician who knows what they're doing and they're confident. But I think it showed me that it's more important to be vulnerable and be real, because I think as I listen to it and I listen to Mortal, it feels closer to me and closer to my heart, and it feels more honest. And I think that's, as scary as that is, I think you kind of owe it to people as an artist to be that way.
Okay, so a big difference in like Mortal and this new album is I guess a more vulnerable point. So in Mortal, was it kind of just like figuring out, like finding stories that you could kind of like tell and maybe adds a little bit of your, personal too? While in this, the personal is kind of what takes a bigger part of it, and you finding stories to fit your personal story that you're trying to tell.
A lot of Mortal was me kind of being, imagine like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like the host, and I'm kind of like flowing the story, and I'm controlling it, and I'm very much like in control emotionally and telling the story. And on the flip side, for this album, it was very much like I was not in control. My story was controlling me, and I was getting flipped around and like thrown through the white water rapids kind of situation. And a lot of the stories ended up just working naturally. I didn't have to really like try to piece things together. I was just telling something, and as I was thinking of the lore, I was like, okay, how does this work in? Because I went into this album with a concept in mind.
Okay.
I already had my concept, and I knew that it still fit within the realm of what I was talking about, but it brought it almost to a higher level of just human existence. And being able to pair those two together just kind of flowed better, rather than me being like, let me pick a story and then tell a story. It was very much me telling my story and being like, oh my God, this sounds so much like this quest line or this thing, this person or this character. There was a lot of that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, and that really kind of does make sense, because if you're picking a story first, you have already picked a framework to work in, so you kind of have to stay in these boundaries. Well, the other way, you get to pick parts of like like the storylines that work for the purposes of, oh, like this goes very well to tell this story. Yeah, that's awesome. But I mean, one thing you said is like being afraid of like showing you're crazy or like, you know, your vulnerable side. I relate to that so much because there is a part of me that is always like terrified of being wrong or perceived as like somebody saying like, oh, like, you know, even on a micro set being like, oh dang, he overreacted on something. And I'm just like, there's part of me that's like deathly afraid of like that, of like overreacting or reacting the wrong way to something, that I overthink anything. And sometimes I feel like I numb myself to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm not truly experiencing these things because I'm limiting myself, because I will take the time to justify everything in my head to be like, okay, like I don't have to overreact to something. But on the flip side, like, especially in music, which I can't remember who I was speaking to, but they were like, well, I treat them as snapshots. Like these are, yes, like I was crazy in this part, or yes, I was like very angry, or yes, I was like wrong. I go, but this was in this moment. So like I'm expressing this snapshot in my, you know, my life or my story in this song, you know what I mean? But you know, you don't have to take that back with you and reflect it. But that is you showing that part of yourself to, again, people who maybe because of the first, you know, album cycle or like, you know, what you've put out like into the world, even like, you know, online or anything, like they see you as a certain way. So changing that narrative on yourself and being like, oh, actually, like I'm going to be vulnerable here. So I'm not always this, you know, person that's in control of all of it, and letting yourself just tell your own story in that way. And again, being crazy, being wrong, being, you know, vulnerable. I think it's something that most people look for in music, that they hold on to is that feeling of like it being real, or like being something. And again, like you, in writing those real stories, you get people to relate to it because like those real stories are very like a very common like shared experience like together.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's gonna be really cool. I'm just like thinking about like the album now. So the album's done. Is this something you took on right after releasing Mortal? Were you already working on it? Were you already like knowing what you wanted to do next?
It was kind of a little bit at a time. It was like imagine like a sprinkling of rain and then suddenly there's a downpour.
Okay.
It was exactly that. Right after Mortal, we were like, okay, we need to go into songwriting mode. We know how long it takes. And we were actually trying to get this album started going last year. Okay. And so it was supposed to be already out essentially, but with everything that happened and just the amount of time we took to just really sit down and write together, we ended up stretching it out and pushing that deadline all the way through March. And so we got all of that in and into the mixing process and all of that stuff. And you know, it just took a while, but there was a good chunk of time where we spent the fall just like writing heavily. I was writing just song after song, just throwing darts at the board to see what would stick, and just getting my emotions out there, which it was a lot. And it was a lot to have to dig into that almost every day. I think that kind of like bled into the reason why I was going kind of crazy is, you know, I was having to delve into the emotional stuff and be in that space for so long. It kind of wears you down, and you kind of lose that hard shell exterior that, you know, with a smile on your face going around and being normal. I felt like I just couldn't keep it together, and I was really struggling, honestly. But it was some of the best stuff that I've written. Some of the strongest songs on this album were written during those times, and I think as hard as it was worth it.
How do you, or not how, but what kind of, what kind of things would you do to bring yourself out of those? Or could you? Did it get really hard to really pull yourself back from those? Because yes, you are diving into these emotions, but hopefully it's just to, you know, write something, but also, you know, pulling yourself back out of those and again, being able to be normal again for a little bit. Was there any like kind of things that you were doing to keep yourself in check a little bit and not kind of stay in those moments?
I mean, I would argue I'm still clambering out of that. And it's like, it's something where I start questioning whether I should leave or get out of it, or if it's something that it's just part of me now. You start to wonder about other musicians that really struggled, and you wonder if this is what they felt.
Okay.
You kind of it makes you put yourself in their shoes, and you just wonder, like, do you ever leave, or is it always a part of you? Has it always been a part of me, but I just had it pushed so far back, and now it's at the surface that it's kind of wanting to stay there. But I think not being afraid of it and not being afraid to have a little bit of that is okay. It's very human. And I think if we're always trying to put on the mask, I think we're being disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think you have to learn to accept parts of it and be like, okay, I can be a little bit like unregulated, but as long as I'm not treating people like shit and being a horrible human being, you know, if I'm treating people with the same compassion and kindness that I would always do, then I think it's okay.
Okay. That's a I guess healthy way to look at it. I mean, because I feel like it doesn't really go away. Like none of it like disappears or anything like that. But I feel like you learn through experiences and how do I handle it? How do I carry it? You know what I mean? Like, and you get stronger to be able to do that stuff. But yeah, I think one of the tools, especially like for musicians and for you especially, like, is being able to create something out of all these emotions, and you get to do that, like, again, in a very like powerful way. You know, like in anything like music wise, but there's something always been about like. Maybe it's just because like when I was in a band, like we wrote metal, but anything metal-wise, like there's just this very like catharsis that happens with like your delivery when you're performing it in the studio, but also like, I mean, will tonight be the first time you're playing some of these songs live?
Yes.
Okay, so that also seems like the next step after that. It's like, okay, these are recorded, but playing it live, like in the moment and being in those emotions, does take like a lot out of you, but it also like lets it, you get a space to let it out with a bunch of people again there to be directly receptive to it. Now, this is, as you were telling me before, your third show like as Daedric, which is insane to me. Like, first of all, like it again, like when you're saying like, oh, it feels like, 10 years have passed by. It does feel like a long time has passed. With everything that you've been doing. But yeah, this is only the third show. And then after this, you are going on tour.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly nuts. Like I really want to talk about it. But how does this come about? Like, how does it go? Because you're going on tour with Tesseract, which is crazy. Like, they're amazing. Yeah, how does it, talk me through the experience?
Yeah, so actually, Daniel Tompkins reached out to me on Instagram after I had done a cover of 7 Names from Tesseract, and he asked me to be on one of his songs for his album, his solo album, which is yet to come out, so you can look forward to that. And so I did a feature on that, and then right around that same time, he messaged me and he was like, what are you guys doing between these dates? And I was like, I don't know, trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And then they invited us to be on the tour with them, and it's just been like so insane to me.
Yeah.
Because this is a band that I have personally looked up to for years, and they're just so impeccable. And to be invited to go along with them is just, it's, I don't know, it's insane. That's really the only thing you can say. Yeah,
like. And them reaching out to you, like, it's just like, hey, first like, be on a song with me, and then like, oh, what are y'all doing during this time? It's crazy, but it's something I feel like you're gonna be running into a lot more and more, is that your name being mentioned in these rooms with people where you like that you admire, you know what I mean? Like, and like, again, a band like Tesseract, something that you've have probably been a direct influence into a lot of like the music like that you've done and created, and your musical like style, like them reaching out to you, and now you getting to be a part of like their story in a way, is kind of really cool. Oh, yeah. That's good. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll be back. Okay, so Daedric actually just left to do a sound check. So we'll be back. I'll put a clip. Gotta hit him with and we're back now. That's really cool. Honestly, that adds like a really cool element to this whole podcast. You literally just like left and it's like, I got a sound check really quickly. But it's cool because we were talking about, touring with, that you're going to go on with Tesseract. So you'll be doing a whole bunch of that.
Yeah.
We're talking about this is the third show for Daedric tonight. So this will be the first tour for Daedric ever. And it's a monster tour.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
I am so excited. I'm a lot of bit intimidated because Tesseract is so flawless. They're just incredible musicians all around. But I feel like this is such an amazing opportunity to learn from them. They've obviously toured for years and years and years. And I feel like there's so much to learn, not just from the music itself, but just the little things that they do on tour and like how to, have fun and not always be so tense. Because I tend to tense up a little bit on shows, but like being able to let go and just be free and kind of hang out and also, just like, what's it like having to like not have a home for a couple weeks, doing all of that. And so I'm mostly excited. I think after getting a couple shows in, I'll be less intimidated. But they're just so good that I'm just like, I hope the fans that are there to see them can also like us, and they're not like, oh, they suck. I wish they didn't play.
Oh God.
But you know what? I am so honored to be on this tour because this is their Concealing Fate 15-year anniversary. They're doing a VIP before every show. And it's so limited that I'm just like, I'm going to be in the back.
You get to be
I'm like, I get to see it. And, it's like, it's crazy, like hearing that, like from so long ago, 15 years ago, when I was a kid, 15 years ago, and being able to be there in that room with them every night and just hearing it and seeing the people that they interact with, because these are like the real hardcore fans. Just seeing that, I think I'm going to learn so much, and I'm really excited about it.
No, definitely. I mean, a seasoned band like that, and this being your first tour, you are going to learn plenty of even just tour stuff. Again, like how do you interact like with people? Like we were just talking about like, being able to be this vulnerable, and then you'll be this vulnerable like on stage like every night, and also like, okay, how do we interact with people like right after that, or even just little thing like, oh, what kind of stuff should I bring with me, or what's the kind of stuff that you're not gonna expect to like, oh, what happens if this, and now coming from a band who's probably like been through all of it, at least you'll have someone to be like, oh, like I know this happened. Again, it's that whole network of people, but like, you're getting, this is a hell of a person or people to add to your network, you know what I mean? To have these experiences and be able to share them with you, but also like create a completely like new experience with this and be part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's absolutely amazing. Going back to this thing, I did like a while ago, I did see this thing and it brought up like a conversation in my head, which was the opener complaint. Like I've had a few, and it's just the internet, so it's whatever I'm saying. But then like people complaining about artists having openers on like tour. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing that like, oh, like why can't they just like not have anybody and just play themselves? But I've like, it's opened my eyes to so many like artists like that. I think that's awesome. Like especially like when I get, in this case, like they handpicked who they wanted to bring on the road with them. And I've talked to like a lot of other artists who like, yeah, we picked them because they, we like them, and we want more people to see them. I'm like, that's cool. Like that's how it should be appreciated. But sometimes like the audience is only seeing it from like their convenience level.
Right.
Of like, I'm only here for one person or whatever. But I feel like most people like run into, at least every now and again, you get like somebody who like, I didn't come here to see them, but they were amazing. You know what I mean? So I think you're going to run into a lot of that. It's again, especially like coming to, maybe some of these people like have heard of Daedric, maybe you have, but like you're on stage and playing and I feel like you're going to convince a lot of people to like tune into your stuff, which is cool. You'll get to share it to like, again, a different audience. And most people, listen to music, like a wide variety of it. They just don't know, what they're expecting. But no, this is super exciting to be part of. Yeah, definitely like I would be a little nervous, but the overall experience is gonna outweigh like any of that. Like I feel like it's just gonna be a fun time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I did want to speak you speaking of like being brought up in like these rooms. I did see like a little clip, and I think you already did talk about it or whatever, but there was like I think it was like an interview or like a podcast, and then like you had like people talking about it. But I know like Courtney from Spirit Box was on the panel. It was who was it, Lizzie?
Yeah, Hailstorm, and then Kristyn Escabia from
how rooms like that, so that's not like someone you're interacting with, but that's someone like literally a whole like they're having a whole completely conversation outside outside of you, like, and no, maybe I don't know at this point. Did you know anybody at this point in the conversation, or did they just bring you up because they saw you?
So actually, I don't talk about it much because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I know her.
Yeah.
But I remember when we were in ASOP, and this was before Spirit Box really blew up. I think it was around 2019. I actually found like our old conversations, but I used to talk to Courtney a little bit here and there.
Oh.
And we were just like, casually chatting and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, I know her. Because like obviously it's been years and she's like blown up and gotten really big. So I kind of sort of knew her. And then Christina Escabilla found me through, she told me it was like some post that I made, and it was like, she was like, oh my God, she's a gamer girl like me and super nerdy. So we kind of clicked, and I saw her like talking about Legos, and I was like, this is my girl. Like I know like her ish. And we ended up meeting after their show a couple weeks ago. I think it was Easter weekend. I went to Lacuna's show in Dallas.
Okay.
And they invited us onto the tour bus, and it was so cool, like getting to meet the whole band, but especially Christina. I mean, she's been in this game since the 90s. And hearing her tell stories about like the festivals back then and how it used to be was just so crazy, because I was like, man, I was like a little kid, and you were out here like grinding, like doing all this, and I couldn't even dreamed about this. And like just sitting next to her, and we ended up becoming friends on Pokemon Pocket. I don't know if you play that game.
No.
We're like friends on there, like wonder picking each other, and like it's like where you just open up packs and battle and stuff. So we're all, the whole band and I and like the rest of our band are like we're all in Pokemon, just like doing that. So it's really cool because you're just talking about stuff that you both love, and she loves games and she's super nerdy too. And I think she's awesome, like music wise too, because like her legacy stretches, decades, and that's crazy. And like they're going on these amazing tours still, and she's just wonderful, like a wonderful human all around, like aside from the music. And just getting to meet her was like a real honor, honestly.
Well, that's two things to like connect on immediately. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like someone is also like, loves video games and also like loves like playing music, and to say, I'm like, that's already like this great connection. And like, again, like they like the stuff that you're doing, and you've like admired them for a while. Like it's awesome to like see connections like that being made, and you being able to have like, again, like more of these experiences, meeting these people who have done this for like a long time, and getting their insights to be part of like your journey that I feel like is still like, I'm super excited because we're still like on the early end of it. I'm so like excited to see like all the stuff that you're doing already, you know what I mean? And getting to experience and doing it in the way of you continuing to do it in a way that you're just doing the stuff that you want to do, like that you like, that you find interesting, which is like one of the simplest concepts. And like being a musician, but sometimes it does get lost. Like it gets lost in like, oh, like, that is the point, like to create stuff that you enjoy doing. And again, like, I feel like that's what you've done from the start of this project. And I feel like you're continuing to do it. And now it's even like helping you again, like, process through some of like these experiences and things that you're going through, so it's just all coming together like perfectly. What do you I mean you have an album, it's gonna be out sometime, I don't know when, you don't have to tell me when, you don't have to release none of these details. I'm
this
not
year.
Gonna force you. I'm not gonna force you. Oh, this year, okay, that's good. You're going on tour. What what's next for like Daedric? Is it just kind of like, let's focus on these two things and then we'll figure out like the rest later, or is it already planning like next steps already?
There's a lot of things just going on behind the scenes, always. But it's really good stuff, from not just this tour happening, but other things facilitating to do similar things, like go and just play more shows and get that experience and get out there. Because I feel like that's such an important part of being a musician, is doing it live and performing your music, and not just doing studio stuff and releasing it, but really making a whole community effort and meeting the people, not just other artists and other people in the music industry, but meeting just people. Because those are the people that are listening, and those are the people that are here supporting and going to your shows and things like that. And it's been such an eye-opening thing to me to play live, because I'm meeting people that are driving from hours and hours away just to see me. And it's just completely humbling, because it's like something you don't realize, like they're sacrificing all this time just to see you for 30-40 minutes on stage, and hopefully get a chance to meet you. And so I feel like it's really given me a good perspective on like how to be a good artist, like a supportive, like community artist, because I'm seeing people like, I mean, Silent Planet, Garrett from that band, like what he's doing in the metal community, that's what I aspire to be like, to connect artists that are like-minded and that are very like good people, and then also like be humble with the fans and not rock star, not be like, I'm too good to speak to you. Just always open yourself up to having just normal conversations, because we're all people. And the fact that they connected with my music shows that we have something in common. And I think that's an important part for me to keep in mind going into all of this is just obviously just stay grounded and be open to just meeting people.
I did. Was that one of, when I saw I guess what I'm going to call it, the debut show over at Trees, like you did have like a line like form after, and you did like, meet a few people. Is this, your first experience with this type of like attention as far as like from people who are listening to, and again, like you're saying, like are driving out to just, because they, connect with the music and want to talk to you about it. Is this your first time it's kind of happening? And then like, what is that experience like with these people,
I would say it's not the first time, because we did get some people similarly for ASOP that were coming in to see us, and that was really cool. But that VIP experience that we had at Trees was very unique for me, because it was me hosting the people and saying, I'm inviting you to spend X number of minutes with me while we chat and have questions, like a real question back and forth. And then I performed a song for them, and then, did some photos, and it was more of a structured thing versus normally I would just kind of be at the merch booth and be like, if you want to chat with me, you can. And I think for, going forward, I don't mind just being at the merch booth and chatting. But I would love to do more VIPs, because I think it's really special for the fans to have that dedicated time to spend with you that's, more intimate. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Is this, do you think this branches like from stuff that you maybe experiences you wish you would have had with like artists that you really like admire, like, oh, like I wish I would have like had like a little VIP experience where they would answer like questions? Because I'm sure like as a fan of music, like you have those just like, oh, like did they write this? Like I think they wrote this because like this is my reasoning. Like I wonder if I can, but getting the chance to like actually ask those questions or be like, oh, or why did you put this line in because of this, or why was this, or I was feeling this. But in VIP experiences and where you get like a Q&A, you get to like directly ask an artist that question. I mean, and sometimes it's not the answer you want. Sometimes it's like, no, that's not it at all. But I think it's just cool to have that experience. But did you have many of these like experiences with like artists that you admired?
I wish I had. A lot of my artists growing up were like long dead or just so big that it would never happen. So being in this space and being like a smaller artist has opened me up to looking for other artists on similar levels or like just a little bit above me to go and meet them, because I feel like that's been more valuable to me to kind of see how they approach things, not just the music, but also playing live and how they just live their lives. I feel like that's been so valuable to me. I think if I was to meet like a mega pop star, it might be a little bit fractured, because I think their reality and my reality are very different now that, when you're that famous. I think it's really hard to be normal. Because you're constantly getting bombarded, not just by people, but I mean, the news articles and like all the social media things, and people are getting canceled left and right. And I'm sure like you said earlier, how you were scared to overreact and do something wrong. I imagine that a million times over for them. They're getting overanalyzed for every little micro interaction that they're having with someone. Like, oh, she's so rude because she did this thing. And it's like a little clip with no context. I think that's a whole different thing. So
it is, because they are. It's not like, oh, it's just in case like they mess up. I mean, because we all like do like whatever, like react any certain way or say whatever things to somebody, but we're not constantly being like watched, But like at that level, like you are, you know what I mean? Like as a kid, maybe seeing celebrity and seeing like whatever paparazzi's like, oh, like they were at the store and they popped out on them. They're just like taking pictures and yelling stuff like that. I was like, oh, why do they mind it so much? But I'm like, that's not just like what I saw in that video. That's everywhere they go. Because then you get pictures of you like at your house or whatever. And like, or again, you're going to the grocery store or whatever. Like, like is as small as this podcast is, I went to Target or something, and then someone like that I didn't know like came up to me and recognized me on this, and I'm like, I look, someone
weird,
Beyonce,
right?
I was like, I look like shit, like I didn't prepare anything, like I was like, or but I mean, they wanted to show me like their band, which again, they're a really good band that I happen to find, but yeah, he had just like, oh yeah, I've seen your stuff, like, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I've been meaning like to like talk to you. Like, this is crazy, blah, blah, like, but I was like, oh, I go, and again, that's just like a small little bit of what like an artist at like at a bigger level like starts getting, and it's like, oh, like it must feel like immense pressure to be like have to be on at all times.
Right.
Yeah. And it is something that I've grown more understandable. Even when like I see artists that I really love and like see them out and about, or I'm at a show and they happen to be there, I'm like, yeah, man, if I can give you a break, like I'm going to give you a break. If anything, if I feel like I need to do something, I'll just like say hi and just like, oh, hi, like love your stuff. And then I'll leave it there.
Right,
but
yeah.
Especially like if it's out like in, keep saying out in the wild, but like if it's out, you're doing something, like if you're not like set up to like, oh, I'm at the merch booth, like come up and talk to me, or you're just like, you're in the bathroom or something like that, then I'm just like, oh, that's that person. Cool. Like, but finding the balance of like, okay, cool, like I do want to show them that like it matters to me, because I'm sure that also is a big thing. I mean, I'll defer to you, but I'll ask you, like, when people tell you this music or this certain thing like made them feel a certain way, it does for the most part make an artist feel good. It's like, oh, like I would love to hear that, but I also think there's like times and places to approach like people to do it. But yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's cool that you're getting that and getting even more people that they want to share their experience with your art with you.
Yeah, it's honestly wonderful, and I've gotten to a place where now when someone says I love your music, like it helped me in this way or whatever, I find myself being like, that's not mine anymore, it's yours. Like that's your experience with it, and I'm glad that I could give that to you. But it wasn't like I did it to you. It was like you can't just thank me. It's like we're now part of this community, like I said, where it's a shared experience, and your experience is uniquely your own. But it's wonderful that I was able to give you an access point there, and it just feels like, I guess, more freeing to not be like, oh yeah, I'm so amazing, I did that. But it's like, no, like I did a thing, and I'm just so grateful that it did help you, and it was a positive impact and not something negative.
Yeah, hopefully not negative.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your song fucked me up. Oh, damn. Sorry, that's art. That's art, baby. Like, it does that. I do want to talk a little bit. So you did like a pretty cool thing with your latest release, and I probably need more explanation on it. But you had like, you gave choices out and had people like pick one, and then each one had an individual answer. Was that all for the single release, or is it like more stuff coming? So
there's definitely more stuff coming, but that one was really important to me because I was getting really into like the storytelling of this album and the concept of this album, which is fate versus free will, and pondering the question, do you really have a choice, and is it yours? Or is it all predetermined, and we're just pretending like we're having choices along the way, but we're always going to end up where we end up? And so with the website concept, with the choose and the three options, the dark, the fire, and the toxin, it's having people choose, like, pick your poison, essentially. Like, what is the danger that you're going to face? And it's kind of a choose your own adventure, like I said. And so as you go in, I had it lead people to a specific one, because for me, that was what related to the album the most. You know, all of them have parts to play in the album, and you'll kind of see that as it develops.
Okay. But
for me, the toxin is the most insidious. It's the one that presents not an outward danger, but an inward one, because you have to ingest it for it to affect you, or inhale it or whatever. And so when I built that website, Choose Your Own Adventure, I wanted to kind of create this story of having people navigate through the three different doors and get to where they were and find the lore of Night Mother. So it's kind of like this hidden button situation.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do more of that as we go into each song, to just open up the portal to the lore. And I wrote essentially like a little like paragraph for each song to talk about it and kind of some of its meaning or some of the questions that I had for myself going into the album.
That's really cool. I love when artists like do interactive things like that, or extra things again to add to the art. Of not just like the music. Oh, like there's also like these hidden things, and people eat that shit up. People love figuring stuff out, or feeling like they could be part of like the adventure together, or like even I think that's why people love live music. It's like, oh, you get to be a part of like the music that you're listening to, because there it's like one-sided. Like you're hearing it, you're experiencing it, but here not only you're experiencing it with the artists, like they're playing it, you're hearing it, but also you have a crowd around you of the same people going through their own experiences of this exact thing together. So I think stuff like that just adds to it. It's like, oh, I can be even more part of this. And I think it's really cool to do it in that way, and that you're working on like doing some more. I know that's a really fun way for people to interact with like artists that they love. This all stems from your like love of the same type of like kind of like ideas and content. Like you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons earlier. It's just there. It feels like, oh, like organizing like an adventure, like for them to, but still giving enough space for them to have their own experience with
Definitely.
it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That release. So anything you have planned for the release that you can talk about? I know it's a lot of stuff that you want to surprise people with, probably.
I'll just say there is one song dropping right after tour.
I need tour to be done with. No, I need you to enjoy tour, and then I need that song to come out. I need more of this. Yeah, that's cool. You have a lot on your plate, but I think you're ready for it, and I'm excited just to see like your experience like through it, and see how you come out of it, and see like what more that's gonna add on to like the next like steps that you're taking. And yeah, I'm just happy for everything like that you're going through. Everything is definitely like earned. Everybody sees like this. These amazing things that you're putting out is like creative spirit that is alive like in everything that you do, and it comes through so like in such a powerful way that I just love, again, being a witness to it. And then I love you taking the time to tell me a little bit about it. I really do appreciate it. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up? You got a show to play tonight.
Yeah, I have a show tonight.
We can't really advertise the show because it'll be done by the time.
Yeah.
The show was great though. The show was great. But yeah, anything else you want to add on to this?
I'm good. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Thank you. This has been episode 142 with Daedric. If you are in any city that the Tesseract Tour is coming through, definitely check them out. Come early. You're not going to regret seeing Daedric. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.